What's happening? It's your boy R. Dot, back with another one. You dig? Let's get straight into it, baby. Boom! Alright. Man, recently I've been, deep diving into a particular topic that seemed to always kind of like it kind of confuses me in a way. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, like, okay, as everybody know, we are basically supposed to be in the third dimension, which is 3D. Okay. Now, as far as science goes, I think that they said that they are supposed to be particularly 11 dimensions or whatever. Okay. Which, if you know, 1D, 2D, 3D. All right. So, the questions that I've been asking is, if you can explain a dimension, and you can explain that we have 11 possible dimensions, how in the hell are we in the 3D? If it makes sense. Like, can 1D understand what is 2D, and 2D, 3D, and 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D? You know what I mean? So I noticed that it's a lot of information about 4D on down. We supposed to be in the third dimension, which the fourth dimension is supposed to be explained as time. Okay, so to me, it makes sense that if we can explain the if they can explain the fourth dimension so vividly and they can explain it so well, we got to be in the fourth dimension instead of the third dimension. How, other than that, how can you explain it? And they say that things that happens that'll be unexplainable is basically just another dimension just doing this thing in our dimension. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're in the first dimension, right? And I'm not smart by any means. I mean, you know what I mean? It particularly on this subject, but it's like basically saying you got one straight line. The only direction you can go in 1D is backwards and forward. Okay. 2D, you have a little bit more movement. You can go forward, backwards, left, and right. You know what I mean? Now, in the third dimension, you have another dimension which adds height. You can go up, you can go down, you can go forward, you can go backwards, you can go left, right. You dig? Okay, so basically that sums up all movement. Okay, so in order to be in another dimension, you know what I'm saying? It takes you from out of all angles you can move. Vertical, horizontal, up, down, angle, all that type of stuff. Okay, so now what they're saying is that it introduces time. Okay, but if time is the fourth dimension, basically what they're saying is that you have the ability to travel. Basically, you have the ability to time travel. That's the fourth dimension. Everything from forward, backwards, you know what I mean? That's basically the fourth dimension. But that don't make sense to me. To me, it really, a lot of this stuff, man, scientific, they be saying, bro, it just, a lot of it just don't make sense to me. It really don't. Like, you can perceive time. You really can perceive time. I mean, like, we understand what time is. Okay, manipulating time. Basically, the fourth dimension would be able to manipulate you. You'll be those beings. A 4D being would be able to manipulate time. They would live out their whole existence from their birth to their demise, to their death. So that don't make sense. It really just don't. It just don't make sense. And by those particular narratives that they're painting about, you know, dimensions and everything, to me, it don't seem like we're in the 3D. To me, it seemed like we'll be more of 4D beings, because we can explain, because they basically can explain what 4D is, you know. So if basically they're saying that, a one-dimensional organism, living person, a being, a 1D being could not perceive, or they wouldn't understand what was going on if somebody in 2D, you know what I mean, showed up in their one-dimensional world and started doing two-dimensional things. Like, they can only perceive going forwards and backwards. So when they used to going in a line, they would think that it would be magical that they just got out their way. So basically, if they just know a line and they can't go from side to side, that means that that person would disappear out their way and reappear back on that 1D plane. I get that. Okay. Vice versa. So let's just say the 2D people came. Okay. Now it was, and a 3D person came to a third dimensional being came to a second dimensional, world, I would say, basically. So they would think that we would be, I guess like gods, because what we would do is that when it was coming head on, it was like a head on collision. We didn't move left. We didn't move left or right. We just jumped in the air. That's something that their consciousness can't perceive. So it'd be basically magical on that, like, wow, like, boom. So it'd be like something disappearing. Okay, so well, that explains. That would basically mean that, okay, if a fourth dimension person came, what would be their equivalent to disappearing? So basically, their equivalent of disappearing in our 3D world would be basically, if it came into a collision, they would just go to a time where we wasn't in their way, and it wasn't a collision. But the collision still happened. They just went to a time where the collision didn't happen. You get it? So that just don't make sense to me. On any of those other levels, it didn't happen. So that means that not only that time, they can manipulate time, they can manipulate time on like in different type realities, like different timelines, like different, like a multiverse. Because if they can go to a spot to when the 4D being was in collision with the 3D being, and the 4D being, to get out the way to avoid the collision, went to a time when the collision didn't happen, but it still happened. Okay, it created a new timeline. You get it? It created a new timeline where it didn't happen, but it did still happen. So what does that mean? It just keep going on and on and on until it just get crazy. It's like, man, a lot of this stuff, man, sometimes it just don't make sense. It's like it's made up. You know what I mean? It's like it's made up. I think they go too deep into things. Like, people be trying to find like something outside of creation, of God, and be trying to, like, you know what I mean? Just people just kind of do too much to me, man. And I'm not knocking nobody, because I'm all for how things work. I'm all for, discovery. I'm all for science. I'm all for it. But some of these theories, and you know what I mean, a lot of them just kind of just be like real far out there. And honestly and truly, I'm not saying that is wrong. I'm not saying that is right. This is just my perception of the theory that we're 3D and not 4D. You know what I'm saying? And from their theories and, their evidence and everything that they're providing, it's, to me, it seems like we're more 4D. We're more in the fourth dimension than the third dimension. Yo, if you made it this far, you know what I mean? I know this is something usually different from what I usually talk about and what I usually, address on my channel. But it was just something that was just puzzling me about, you know what I mean? Because, about the different dimensions or whatnot. It just, because I done heard so many different theories about it. And to me, all of them point to we're more 4D, So if a fourth dimensional being came in contact with a fifth dimensional being and they came into a deadly collision, how would that being avoid the collision to make infinite timelines or separate timeline? You see what I mean? How could they avoid it happening in existence, period? How could they basically not make that an existence? It ceased to exist. That's the question. And I haven't thought that far yet, but that would be interesting to know. You know what I mean? Like, man, shoot, drop something in the comment section, based on what I said about all different dimensional beings met each other on a deadly collision, and how would they escape that collision in their dimension, according to their dimension. You know what I mean? But you know how I do, man. You know what I mean? I talk your head off. I keep you here all day on this beautiful Thursday. You feel me? So I'm gonna let you go. But think about that, man. Put the comments in the comment section and let me know, how would a fifth dimensional being avoid a deadly crash with a fifth dimension? Well, a fifth dimension being avoid a deadly crash with a fourth dimensional being. You know what I mean? But it's your boy R. Dot, back with another one. You dig? Over and out, baby. Boom!